Imagine standing on a baseball field, but every swing, every catch, every run could decide whether you live or die. That's not a movie plot, it really happened. In 1911, inside the walls of the Wyoming State Penitentiary, a group of prisoners played baseball for their lives. Literally. This was a time when America was obsessed with baseball. The game was everywhere, from dusty rural lots to grand city stadiums. It was called the national pastime, and it stood for hope, fairness, and second chances. But inside the gray stone walls of the Rawlins prison, that same game became something darker. A deadly gamble between life and death. The Wyoming State Penitentiary back then was a brutal place. Life for prisoners was tough, overcrowded cells, hard labor, and almost no hope of release. Many inmates were serving long sentences or waiting for execution. But when a new warden, Felix Alston, arrived, everything began to change. Alston was a different kind of prison official. He believed discipline could come not just from punishment, but from pride and purpose. He noticed that many prisoners loved baseball, so he came up with an idea. What if baseball could bring order and peace to the prison? He formed teams inside the prison, gave them uniforms, and even built a proper baseball diamond behind the walls. The inmates loved it. Soon, the best players formed a team that started competing against outside semi-pro clubs, and surprisingly, they won, over and over again. But the real twist came with the creation of a single team, the Death Row All-Stars. Every player on this team was sentenced to die. Murderers, robbers, and outlaws who had nothing left to lose. The warden struck a deal. As long as they kept winning, their executions would be delayed. Imagine that. A man standing at the plate, knowing a single strikeout could bring him closer to the gallows. The crowds that came to watch didn't know whether to cheer or shiver. Newspapers started writing about them. One paper called it the strangest baseball team in America, and they weren't wrong. The team quickly became legends. The Death Row All-Stars dominated every local team they played against. People began to travel just to see them. For the prisoners, baseball wasn't just a sport, it was hope. Every inning was a heartbeat, every win another day of life. The star player was Joseph Sang, a convicted murderer and a natural athlete. Reports say he could pitch like a professional, calm, fast, precise. Fans loved him. But behind every throw was the chilling reality that he was living on borrowed time. Warden Alston and the prison chaplain used the games as a way to boost morale. Guards noticed that fights inside the prison dropped sharply. The warden was proud. He even let the team travel under guard to nearby towns to play local clubs. They'd arrive in shackles, take them off, play like professionals, then put them back on after the game. It was surreal. But the media attention started to raise questions. Was it ethical? Was the warden using these men for entertainment? Some critics said it was a cruel illusion, giving condemned men hope just to snatch it away later. Others defended it, saying it was a chance for redemption. The truth was somewhere in between. For the inmates, it was both, a light in the dark, but a reminder that freedom was still beyond reach. In late 1911, after several wins, the team faced its hardest challenge yet. The state's Board of Pardons was under pressure to carry out the sentences. Newspapers and politicians began to argue about whether justice was being delayed too long. The idea that prisoners could win their way out of execution didn't sit well with everyone. Then came the fateful game that would end it all. The All-Stars faced a strong semi-pro team from nearby Evanston. The prisoners fought hard, every hit echoing like a heartbeat. They won again. The crowd went wild. But in the shadows, political forces were moving. Just days later, the board announced that executions would resume. The first to go was one of the All-Stars' best players, Joseph Sang himself. The news hit the prison like a thunderclap. For months, he'd been the hero, the face of hope behind bars. He walked calmly to the gallows in 1912. Some say he smiled before the trapdoor opened. After Sang's death, the rest of the team began to crumble, not just in performance, but in spirit. They played fewer games. The press, once fascinated, started to move on to other stories. Without the promise of life extension, baseball lost its magic. Players stopped practicing. The diamond went quiet. Within a year, the team was gone, buried under silence and shame. Historians later dug into prison records and confirmed that the games really happened, though the details were partly shrouded by time and myth. Some said the warden himself bet on the outcomes. Others claimed it was all a clever reform experiment. But what's certain is that for a brief moment in history, death row inmates in Wyoming really did play for their lives, and for the hearts of thousands watching from beyond the walls. It's one of those stories that feels almost too strange to be true. A tale that blurs the line between justice, redemption, and exploitation. Even now, over a century later, it raises haunting questions. Should condemned people be given second chances? Can sport redeem a life? Or was it all just a cruel game dressed up as mercy? The legacy of the death row all-stars still echoes in American folklore. Writers, filmmakers, and historians have retold their story again and again. Some romanticize it as a story of courage, others as a chilling example of manipulation. But one thing's undeniable. It shows how far people will go to feel alive, even when facing death. For many of those inmates, baseball wasn't just about winning. It was about proving they were still human, still capable of teamwork, discipline, and passion. Even men's society had condemned to die found meaning in a game. Today, if you visit Rawlins, Wyoming, you can still see parts of the old penitentiary. It's now a museum. Visitors walk through the same cells where the All-Stars once lived. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe for more forgotten stories like this.